All right, Alexander, we have got to take another look at the situation in the UK. Kwasi Kwarteng, is he in trouble? Yes, I think he is. Liz Truss, is she in trouble? Most likely. And all of this is being done so we can roll out the red carpet for Keir Starmer. Can we call him Tony Blair 2.0, perhaps? Keir Starmer, that's why the deep state wants him so much. Anyway, what is the situation going on in the UK? What a train wreck this is.
It is a train wreck, and first of all, I agree with every point you've just made. I would quickly add, and I want to make this absolutely clear from the outset, that I am no fan of Liz Truss. I'm no fan as Chancellor of Kwasi Kwarteng, even though, as I've said many times, I actually know him. We personally know each other, though we're not friends. But let me make it again clear. I'm not a fan of Liz Truss. I think she was hopelessly inadequate for the job of Prime Minister. I don't think Kwasi Kwarteng has proved to be a good Chancellor either. But I can smell a plot, especially in Britain, which is a place which I know, and there is a plot going on. You remember way back when things started to rumble against Johnson? I said at the time that I could smell a plot, and eventually Johnson was ousted. I can smell a plot this time, and in fact, I have absolutely no doubt that's happening. Now, if we go back just a few weeks, we had that mini budget that Kwarteng announced in the House of Commons. I made it clear that I wasn't a huge fan of it, but there it was. It was the government's policy. The markets reacted badly. The Bank of England then stepped in and carried out renewed QE, and that stabilised the government bond market. And then, of course, there was all kinds of orchestrated pressure from within the Conservative Party, and Kwarteng was forced to cancel one of his tax cuts. He was forced to cancel the decision to cut taxes from 45% for incomes above £150,000 a year, from 45% to 40%, but not a big change. And then things seemed, for a few short days, to get quieter. And then on Monday, everything changed. And what changed on Monday was that the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, came out and made a statement. And he said that the Bank of England was going to stop its intervention in the bond market on Friday. That was the date that had been previously given, but everybody assumed that it would go on beyond Friday. But he said that it would stop on Friday, and that was already alarming enough for the markets. But then he went on and said something else. He said that pension funds, British pension funds, which have all kinds of problems because of the way in which they've done their various things in the bond markets, therefore only have until Friday to close their positions. Now, that was an extraordinary thing to say. And of course, what it did is it restarted the entire crisis. Sterling crashed. Well, it lost, money against the dollar. It lost its position against the dollar. Situation on the bond markets erupted. And of course, Conservative MPs started to come back and talk about the need for a change of course. And the Bank of England pretended to go back on some of the things that the Governor of the Bank of England had said, but did so in a very half-hearted way, if anything, adding to that sense of crisis. And there's been intense pressure on the government not only to reverse its tax cuts, but now to start engaging in tax increases, to increase corporation tax, in other words, the tax that businesses pay. So a government that was formed to cut taxes is being pushed towards raising taxes. Now, whatever you may think of Liz Truss, whatever you may think of Kwarteng, this latest spat at the crisis is an artificial one. It's been deliberately stirred up by the Bank of England. The Bank of England is clearly not working by itself. What they are doing is they're trying to force the government to reverse its entire economic policy, which is a tax-cutting policy. They want to force it into tax increases. They know perfectly well that Truss and Kwarteng's whole political position is based upon moving towards tax cuts. If Truss and Kwarteng capitulate, and there are rumours now being planted across the media that they're about to do so, rumours which probably have no actual basis in fact. They're being denied, but that doesn't matter. You know, you plant all of these stories in the media. If Truss and Kwarteng back down, they're toast. Politically, they are toast, because their entire policy, they will have been forced into a massive U-turn on. Alternatively, if they don't back down, we can be sure that there will be more destabilization of the financial markets by the Bank of England, by the powers that control these things, and of course more attacks on the government from establishment, pro-establishment, conservative backbenchers over the next couple of days. So there's a crisis underway. It's not an economic crisis anymore. It's a political crisis. There is a clear agenda, not just to get the government to reverse course, but ultimately, and I have to say this, it seems to me, or so it seems to me, to oust first Kwarteng and then Truss.
Regime change.
Regime
change.
Absolutely, regime change.
Just to clarify something. Is the UK economy in crisis, or is this artificial? I just want to clarify what you're saying.
It is in crisis. I mean, things are very bad here. Things are very bad here. But somebody, we've discussed who, Bank of England, is intent on making it even worse. Now, they steadied the ship through this QE thing. And, you know, I'm not a fan of QE. Everybody knows this. I'm not going to change my position on that. But the announcements that were made at the start of this week were calculated to make what is already a very bad situation even worse. And it's important to understand that this is not being done as part of an agenda to turn things round. The Bank of England is not coming up with proposals for policies that would solve Britain's very real economic problems. What they're doing, increasing corporation tax, which is only going to increase burden on businesses, is not going to make things better in Britain. What they're doing is they're trying to undermine the government. I don't like this government. I don't like this kind of plotting. I particularly don't like it when institutions like the Bank of England, which are supposed to be apolitical, neutral institutions, are used in this way. So inadequate though I find Liz Truss, incompetent though I find, well, I'm not going to call him a friend, but my good acquaintance, Kwasi Kwarteng, I still don't like it when it's done in this way. I think this is extra parliamentary, extra constitutional forces be used to effect what you straightforwardly called regime change. And that's what it looks like to me.
Right, but I mean, this is the game that they've created.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the game that they have set up over the many years and the many decades. So, okay, Liz Truss is not clever enough to figure this out, in my opinion. But Kwarteng is.
Yes.
He may not be the right chancellor, but he is a clever man. How come he doesn't come out and say what's going on? Liz Truss, I agree. Liz Truss, her head is in La La Land. But Kwarteng, I'm sure he knows what's up. How come
Absolutely.
he just doesn't
But
go
note,
to the British people and say, look, here's the deal?
now, but note the timing. This is why it's clearly a plot, because he's not in Britain at the moment. He's actually in Washington attending the meeting of the IMF, and this had been prepared for a while back. So he's not in London, where he can speak to members of Parliament, go around the studios, talk to people, explain things, talk about it. They struck when they knew he wouldn't be there. And of course, by the time he gets back, the whole thing will have already taken on a life of its own. So, the timing of this is not by chance. It is. It's regime change. And as I said, I may not like the regime, but I utterly oppose regime change. I want to make that absolutely clear.
So this is about getting Starmer in office, so
Absolutely.
that Starmer can do what?
Absolutely. Now, this is the important thing to understand, because, of course, whoever takes over from
What makes
Truss,
him just real quick? What makes him different from Truss? I just want to say,
right.
Can you explain what is the real?
Yeah,
difference
I will.
between the two?
But let me just explain. I mean, if Truss falls tomorrow, her successor will be another Conservative. But whoever that person is, they're not going to have the authority to stabilise the government. This Conservative government, one way or the other, is now terminally damaged. We are going to have an election in Britain fairly soon. The Labour Party is going to win, and Keir Starmer is going to be Prime Minister. Why do they want Keir Starmer? Keir Starmer, first of all, is somebody that they trust. And the reason they trust, he's an arch Remainer. He was the person who was at the back of all the plots and conspiracies and intrigues to try reverse Brexit. You remember all that second referendum thing? He was absolutely 200% involved in all of that. You talked about him as being Tony Blair too. He is very close to Blair. Blair clearly has supported him in the past. He lacks all of Blair's charisma. He doesn't have Blair's intelligence. The British people don't particularly like him, but nonetheless, he's reliable. He is politically reliable. Why do they prefer him to Liz Truss? Firstly, he is more competent. I mean, that's not difficult. He is a more competent person than Liz Truss. Secondly, more importantly, he would probably run a more solid government, a more solid Remainer, pro-establishment, pro-deep state government. He had a lot of contacts with the deep state whilst he was Director of Public Prosecutions, head of the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, then, certainly Liz Truss has done. So he's got those links, he's got those connections. They know him, they trust him in a way that they don't trust and know Liz Truss. The other thing to say is, not only would it be a more stable government, but Starmer has shown that he is effective in one thing, which is clamping down. He successfully purged the Corbynists from the Labour Party. Jeremy Corbyn, is no longer even a Labour MP. He's still an MP, but he's had the whip withdrawn, so he's been suspended from the Parliamentary Labour Party. He's still a member of the Labour Party, but he's not a member of the Parliamentary Party. So if there's an election tomorrow, he cannot stand as a Labour MP. Lots of other people have been purged from the party. He is someone, in other words, Starmer is someone who has shown that he's prepared to do what it takes to keep things under control, to push dissent into the margins, to clamp down in the kind of way that we're talking about. He also showed that during the lockdowns, by the way. He was much keener on the lockdowns than Johnson ever was. So he's reliable, he's trusted, he's a Remainer, he's pro the war in Ukraine. He's also somebody who's shown that he's prepared to do what it takes, both to clamp down on dissent within his own party and within society generally. So that's why they want Starmer. So he would not change policy, but he would enforce it. And that's, I think, why they want him.
Right. A Blairite, globalist, sounds like he's a WEF type of
Yeah.
protege. I'm not saying he has gone to that WEF school, but everything that you're saying describes that type of person. A globalist, elitist, Remainer, establishment, Blair type of guy who, with the help of the deep state, maybe on his own accord, managed to remove Corbyn from Labour. He ascended to power, and now he's seen the opening so that he can become prime minister, or the deep state has seen the opening to make him prime minister, whichever one, doesn't matter. And the road is clearing for him to get there.
Absolutely. It is being cleared for him. It has been cleared for him.
It has been cleared for him. Okay.
Yeah.
What can Starmer fix the UK's problems? At the end of the day, the only reason the British people are even considering someone like Starmer, who's got the personality of a rock. I mean, I've seen him speak. I mean, the guy's, he's a potato. What? He's not charismatic at all. I'm sorry, he's not charismatic at all. What can he do to fix the situation in the UK? I mean, that's why the people are going with him, because there is no other choice.
Yeah.
So can he fix the deep systemic problems that afflict the UK?
No, he can't. I mean, straightforwardly, you're absolutely right in your characterisation of Starmer. I read somewhere a left-wing journalist. I say left-wing, I mean, kind of journal. I don't mean, Corbyn left. I mean, Guardian left journalist say that Starmer has all the charisma of wet concrete. So that gives you some idea of how uncharismatic he is. He's not particularly liked in Britain, but you're absolutely right. When people see a collapsing Conservative government, the government descending into chaos, they say to themselves, well, we have to have a government, and that by default means that we have to have Starmer. But does he have a plan? Does he have a route forward to deal with these very deep systemic problems? No, he doesn't. But I'm going to say something. I think that for those who are clearing the path for Starmer, it's no longer a case of trying to solve Britain's systemic problems. Remember, to the extent that these people are globalists, they're probably not even very interested in solving Britain's systemic problems. What they want is someone who can keep control. It's more about control than about solving problems. And Starmer has shown that he is somebody who takes seriously the job of keeping control. It isn't just Corbyn himself that he's moved against. It's a lot of Corbyn's supporters who have been thrown out of the party over the last couple of years since Starmer became leader. So he's shown that he has that ruthlessness, that will, if you like, to cling on to control, and that could very well be what that is. Apart from the fact that they trust him and know him, it's what I think causes a large part of the British permanent state, the establishment, the deep state, all of those things, to look to him at this time. So I think that's what this is really about. It's not about solving problems. Who anywhere in the West is talking about solving problems at the moment? It's all about control. I mean, remember, we did a program recently about the situation in France, and you brought up over the course of that program the fact that Macron has shown in the past that he's prepared to resort to authoritarian methods. Sure enough, this morning I was reading about the fact that he's now thinking of deploying the army, of actually bringing out the army, sending them into the oil refineries, that using the army in effect to break the strikes in the oil refineries. It's all about control, and that Starmer is trusted to do that. Truss isn't. Kwarteng, who, as I said, I do slightly know, I think not only would not do it, he wouldn't want to do it. He's not the kind of person who would be comfortable acting in that way. So Starmer is, so that's why they want Starmer.
Okay, I guess we'll leave it there, Alexander. I have to admit I'm a little troubled by all of this. I see one direction for the collective West. That the direction is not, as you say, to solve the problems. It doesn't even seem like they're interested in solving problems. I think it's crystal clear that what they want to do is centralize everything. I mean, more authoritarianism, more Europe, the collective West is moving towards a very, very dark place. And it looks like Keir Starmer is going to be the guy to take them there.
I completely agree. At least in Britain, I agree. And that's why, you know,
Oh, you mentioned Macron as well. Yeah.
I mentioned Macron as well. The times bring forth the man, as they sometimes say. These are dark times, and they're bringing forth the kind of man who's coming to make them darker still. So it seems to me, at least. That's my view about Britain. I mean, you know, I'd like to think I'm wrong. I don't believe so. And as I said, that there's a plot underway. Well, as I said, I was already talking about this 2-3 days ago. As I said, I have a good nose for this thing, especially in Britain, which is, you know, a country I know. Now more and more people are saying this, and that there is a plot underway. About that, I have no doubt.
Okay. TheDuran.locals.com. Look for us on Rockfin as well. And the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.